On this episode of Tiger TV, I go to the University of Central Missouri, and I have a mishap. Cue the intro.
Hi, Baseball Nation. This is Spiker Helms, where I interview the best in the business, where I try to find out what got them to the top. This is their journey, their stories, and our questions. This is Tiger TV.
Welcome to episode 6 of Tiger TV. This show is all about interviewing the most successful inside baseball. We've had coaches, players. We're going to go into industry leaders here shortly. But I am alongside Kyle Crookes, head coach at UCM. Kyle, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Kyle played at San Jose State, played at Centenary. I was struggling out off camera too. And now this is his second year at UCM.
As the head coach. I've been here for 3, yes sir.
Been here for 3. Fill in the gaps in between that intro. Like what else have inside that you could fill in to let the people know?
I think my path was a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I was a high school player on an extremely successful high school team in Arizona actually, and I think. My memory serves, I was the only player on that team not to be a draft or Division I signee. Mm-hmm. And I ultimately took a year off of baseball, not really on purpose, just not knowing what else to do or what direction to go. Found San Jose City Community College in California and was given an opportunity to play there. Then moved on to Centenary and got my undergrad there and was able to play Division I baseball there, which was the dream. Yeah. And then from that point, we got the opportunity at Centenary to play a lot of really, really quality teams in Louisiana. So, mm-hmm. And we played a team called Northwestern State in Louisiana, which a lot of people probably may not be familiar with. You may be. I'm not sure if you ever mm-hmm. played against them or not. But at the time, John Cohen was down there, and he's currently the head coach of Mississippi State, but he was the head coach down there. And you could tell that their program was incredibly well run, organized, and successful. And so I drove an hour down the road and asked him if I could be a graduate assistant. Yeah. And I got lucky. A spot had opened up, and it just worked. Mm-hmm. And that's what kind of got me in the door coaching, and allowed me to get my taste for it. And from that point, I did my GA work there. Got an opportunity to actually go follow Andy Sawyer's, finished his grad work, and got the head job at Hutchinson Community College. Mm-hmm. And in 2001, he gave me an opportunity to be an assistant for him, mm-hmm. and stayed there for 4 years as an assistant, and then ultimately was able to get the head job there, mm-hmm. and stayed there for a while until Tommy called me here when he had an assistant opening. And I felt like it was the right time, the right opportunity. This program is different. It's a special kind of a program to bring you from being a head coach maybe to being an assistant, depending on where you're at. And it spoke to me, my family, when we came up here, and certainly the people that were here. So, when Tommy made his decision to retire, it was given the opportunity to be the head coach here, and really just incredibly humbled and blessed to be here. This place is terrific.
And you've been all over the United States. I mean, describe like the different mentality when you go from Cali to Louisiana, and then back into the Midwest, where with Kansas, and I know with Hutchinson Community College, there is nothing. It's literally just baseball. You're devoted to baseball. I mean, and then Cali, everyone's everywhere.
Right.
I mean, describe that. Like
it's a very, very different I guess mix and feel. Mm-hmm. Certainly the baseball is quality. California, produces great quality baseball, and the community colleges there are just set. There's 105 of them that play baseball. They're all in the middle of a massive city, and they run, together, 20, 30 minutes apart. And the style of baseball is different, and the coaching strategies, the coaching methods are different. Certainly the weather's great, but it's been a great experience because California brings with it, I think, a certain kind of baseball, and mm-hmm. I was able to be introduced to that. And certainly I was just given an opportunity to play, and I'm very thankful for that. And I think the mentality there is different, and it is one that has been popularized by certain programs, whether it's George Horton, who's at Oregon, or Serrano, or what have you, and he's taken that and brought it out to Tennessee. And it's very evident there. It's very clear, in terms of what's important and what they're able to do, and what that I guess most of the programs have success doing. They pitch and play defense, and they can play defense. Yeah. And their parks are bigger, and I don't think they're designed for people to leave the yard. They're designed for those things to happen. And then you go to Louisiana. At the time that I went, it was guerrilla baseball. It was LSU. They were going to the World Series every single year. And
yeah, I mean, just looking at those guys, like
I remember we played LSU at Alex Box Stadium, and two things I remember: there was a sign in the stands that said "It sucks to be Crookes" because I was playing my first ever collegiate game at third base.
Yeah.
And I remember standing in the batter's box, and Brad Cressy was catching.
Yeah.
And he was almost as tall as me, squatting down as I was standing up. And I was just like, this can't be what it's really all about. And they were just massive human beings. And it was guerrilla baseball there. That was what was important. And the environment that surrounded baseball and athletics in general in Louisiana was a much more, much more of a party atmosphere.
Well, I mean, in Southern baseball, like I remember when we played, like going to Southern Miss, you'd have old ladies yelling at you, and then you have the fans in the background heckling you. It's a completely different atmosphere from the Midwest. Like when you go down south, you're just like, oh boy.
Yeah, it's a tailgating party with a baseball game in the middle of it, and it's a lot of fun, but it's very different. And in California, it's not like that. It is extremely businesslike. Yeah. It is go in, get your work done. It's very drill oriented, very skill oriented. And it was a different. At least my experience was very different. They're very different, polar opposites. And then coming to the Midwest, I'll have to admit, the first adjustment was weather.
Yep.
But I believe in the brand of baseball here being a little bit of a collection of the two. I think the weather puts you in a position where you're going to have to do some things that they teach in California that become a priority in California. Yeah. And then as the winds shift and the weather warms, and it well, it can provide the opportunity to play a different kind of baseball game as the year wears on. But I think the mentality here is very different in a very positive way. This is the toughest mentality-wise area that I've been around, and I really, really enjoy it. And
it's like it's a blue-collar mentality.
Oh, it's exactly what it is.
And the crazy thing is that, and you know this very well with Warrensburg, I mean, you'll get 20-degree weather, and now you have turf, so... If it's 15 degrees, you're going out there.
Right.
I mean, shovel that snow off and let's go. Let's play.
Right. That's absolutely right. And I what I think that breeds a toughness, that breeds a blue collar mentality, and because of that, and because of what the limitations are weather-wise for kids growing up, the ability to and the willingness to come out in any temperature and when the wind kicks up, it makes it worse. It can be. What most would consider a miserable day, and that's a practice day for us, and that's a day to get better. And the kids that come from that environment have a certain kind of toughness, a certain edge that's really, really enjoyable to be around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you go with those double headers and those triple headers in the fall to get yourself a little bit better, and you're coming into the clubhouse, and you're like, man, this is going to be miserable. But once you're out there, it's like, you know what? Let's get it done.
Right.
Let's strap up. Let's go.
Well, I think that mentality right there speaks to what it is and what we all want it to be as coaches here, and it's what I really, really appreciate. And once you get moving, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not.
So how's this new turf field so far?
Oh, we're a week into really being able to use it.
Yeah. Hold on. So they just got a new turf field. The former alumni is the Houston Astros owner, yeah. And so he donated it, or
Jim Crane. They went on a playoff run. The Astros, I think, it may be a year earlier than what their timeline was going to be.
Yeah.
They beat the Yankees in that one-game playoff, and then played the Royals in a 6-game or 7-game playoff. It was great baseball. And on the heels of that, the timing of things allowed him to be here, see the facility, and he, again, is has been very generous to this program and has a great relationship with our athletic director, a long-standing relationship. And he was generous enough to donate the funds to turf the field.
That's unbelievable. So, I mean, you guys are just living like kings right now.
Right now it's just terrific to be able to get and really those decisions were made in October, and from that point forward.
Wow.
So we got off the field and haven't been on our field until just within the last week. So that mixed in the fact that it's a brand new surface is just made everything it's like Christmas.
That's unbelievable.
It's unreal. It's really nice.
That's crazy. And then the first home game is not this weekend, but next weekend, because you play at Henderson, right?
At Hayes.
At Hayes. Okay, got you. And then you come back for Pitt State.
That's correct.
Gotcha. How's the MIAA look this year? I mean,
my comparison to the MIAA, in my experience now, this would be my 4th year, is I think it's very similar to what you would consider a Power 5 Division I conference and Division II. There are no weekend series where you can expect to just roll and say, okay, well, we're going to get our 3 wins here and get healthy, so to speak. Everywhere you look, there's a coach that's had success either where they're at or prior to, and you can see them building towards it, and not just with their experience and wins and losses, but with the players that they're recruiting, with the facilities that they have. We talk about turf, and I think we're team number 7 or 8 in the conference that has it coming in. So there was already about half the teams in the conference that had it. And when people realize that, they're like, "Goodness, I didn't realize that it was already that far in."
Yeah.
We're in the Midwest. You become very familiar with the usual suspects in terms of recruiting and the coaches, and they are here. And there is not a weekend that you don't have to absolutely get after it to fight your way, to 2 or 3 wins, and I think it's very, very competitive.
Yeah.
As people and I become more familiar with the MIAA, but outside people that may not be familiar with it, to me, it's the same thing as going into the SEC or the ACC and saying, well, Clemson's playing Miami. That's a tough weekend, right?
Yeah.
Well, sure it is. And the next weekend you got to play North Carolina State. Well, that's a tough weekend.
Yeah.
And then the next weekend you got to play North Carolina. They're all hard. There's no easy. There's no give me.
Yeah.
And I feel that way, about the MIAA. You got to go to Pitt State. You got to go to Hayes. Coach Johnson's a great coach. Coach Murray's a great coach. He came from here.
Yeah.
You've got to go to Mo West. Buzz has been there for 20 years.
Yeah, I
won
know.
some championships, and so, it's good baseball, and you have to fight your tail off, and it really demands a lot of the players and demands a lot of their focus and attention, and that to me is really fun. So I think the MIAA is incredibly competitive right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because, I was introduced to it because a lot of people just don't know about it just because you know how the baseball industry is. It's very underground. And then when you do get noticed to it, like this is the SEC, the ACC, like this is top-level baseball. You're dealing with 90 arms almost every weekend. You're dealing with positional players that can stick it.
Sure, absolutely.
It's unbelievable.
And I think it speaks to the growth of baseball in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I think it's, when I got to the Midwest in 2000, 15, 16 years ago, I think it was starting to do it. And I think as, in terms of who people recognized in the Midwest prior to that, the usual suspects may have been Wichita State and Oklahoma and maybe Missouri State, depending on, and I wasn't from, not being from the area, I'm not sure. But you could pick out maybe 1, 2, 3 schools, but then the next thing you know, Dave Van Horn's in Nebraska and they're going to the World Series. And then the next thing you know, Missouri State's going to the World Series with Eisenhower and Brinkley and those guys. And then now things in the Midwest are, K-State rebuilds their program. And it's
even SLU.
Absolutely.
You don't even, and Hendricks, and that's funny. Another University of Central Missouri coach is the head coach at SLU. So it seems like UCM has this great tradition of baseball, and it seems like it just kind of sprouts out from that. If you kind of look where players are, one guy that I used to play with, Lee Stoppelman, he's in the Cardinals organization. So what other guys? I'm a little unfamiliar with this. Like, what other guys in professional baseball right now for UCM?
I think Altman is probably up the furthest. He was really up and down in the big leagues with the Yankees as a lefty guy out of the pen. And he's probably the furthest up there in terms of the rank and file. And then, obviously Lee. Unfortunately, I think our closer from 2014, Zach Davis, was in the Astros organization.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he remains. He may have, just gotten, I think, recently released, and so he's looking for a team.
And the crazy thing those are 2 junior college guys.
Right. Yep. They're 2 junior college guys. There's been some guys, that have made decisions. The most recent All-American we had, Brad Wilson, in 14, had opportunities, I think, but knew for him the best thing was to pursue business. He's getting his MBA and starting his career. In terms of professional baseball, I don't know that there are any big leaguers right now, but Altman's right on the cusp, and then there's been plenty, and then obviously we'd like to continue to build that.
Oh yeah.
But not always as easy as it may.
Well, pro ball is just a whole different beast altogether. It's completely different from college baseball or even high school baseball. But, it's just different. So, but going along the lines of the student athlete right now, what would you recommend for an inspiring college baseball player who is trying to make it to the next level? What should he be doing right now? Besides training, obviously. I mean, you got to be trained because it's tough. Like your percentages of playing college baseball are pretty slim.
Mm-hmm.
But being in that select group, I mean, what would you recommend for them to do?
Well, I think I think the first and foremost, people that are aspiring to play college baseball at this level probably, and you and I know this, are playing travel baseball in the summer, probably in the fall, and preparing for their springs now in high school. And again, baseball has really expanded in the Midwest, and anymore, I would say there's probably a place for you to play, aspiring to play college baseball, but there needs to be some sort of person to seek out in your organization that will give you the honest truth about where you may belong.
Yeah.
Just because you play for a travel baseball team doesn't necessarily prepare you to play here or at Missouri State or at Mizzou.
Yeah.
It may prepare you to play at a junior college, and I think you need to be educated about that. And that's one of the things that I really, I ended up at a junior college, but nobody told me anything about junior college baseball.
Yeah.
And we're at a point now where there's enough information at our fingertips where I think players need to know, hey, your talents are best suited here.
Yeah.
Nobody ever wants to tell somebody, hey, you can't do this, or you can't play here, or you can't play here. But there is, with so much baseball happening and so much travel baseball happening and so much investment of time and energy in baseball now from a young age, you're investing in trying to play baseball in college.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. I think that's great. It's great for our game. But I think people need to be aware of what level that they're probably going to fit at.
Yeah.
Because there's only a 35-man roster at Mizzou. That's 35 dudes, and probably only 5 are leaving. So that's,
and then if you go down to position-wise,
right,
I mean,
exactly.
that's even smaller of a percentage.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think educating yourself on what the realities are of who you are and what you're capable of doing and where you want to be, and aligning those things first and foremost. Hey, I want to be a professional baseball player too. Unfortunately, none of the scouts thought I was good enough to do so.
Yeah.
So then you have to make your decisions based on that. And I think the same thing is true for college. And then I think as a player, and I think we do this as coaches, you need to evaluate what matters to me.
Yeah.
What kind of program do I want to be a part of?
Yeah.
And what kind of person do I want to play for? What kind of offense do they run? Does it suit my abilities? It doesn't make a lot of sense to go to a yard where a lot of home runs are hit if you're a little itty-bitty guy that runs. That's not probably going to fit into the style. And then personalities, we talk a lot about fit here because guys need to perform at a certain level. And if they're motivated to do it because they feel like they fit here, then we're going to be able to get the most out of them. And I think players will give and be totally committed to a program that they feel like they fit in with and a coaching staff they feel like they fit in with. And I don't think that can be understated because it's 4 to 5 years of, spending all of your time
all
together.
of your time. It's all of your time. And that's one thing that people don't realize. And when I talk to people about the recruiting trail, it's like, go after the person. It's about the relationships, and we talked about that off camera. Like, it's not about the Nike shoes. It's not about the dollars. It's about the people. I mean, I told my dad this when I was getting recruited. I said, you know what? And I don't know if this was just how I was raised or what. I was just more invested in the person. So I actually considered schools that weren't Division I. I didn't have that Division I bug. I wasn't concerned about it. What I was concerned about was, is this person going to get me better? And that's where I went. So
I think that's a great point to make. Is this person going to help me be the best player I can be and maximize my ability? And the Division I bug, as you mentioned, is something that's there, and I think that's always in the back of people's minds. And I think it's a mistake because ultimately, and I mean, there's a lot of history of it here. We've had a lot of players that got bitten by the Division I bug and then ended up back here. But
the thing is though that there's Division II schools that can beat Division I schools.
I would say that, and this is probably a pretty arrogant statement, especially with where we're at right now. But I would put our team up against any team.
Well, I think that's just confidence. I mean, I don't think that's arrogant. I think that's just a mentality that you have to have because you're competing.
Right.
And I do think that there are Division II schools that can go out there and take it to a Division I school.
There's no doubt
on
in my
any
mind.
given day.
There's
So,
no doubt in my mind.
yeah.
I would put our team on the field against any team in the country and give us a chance to win. And I think that speaks to the talent that's at this level.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think that speaks to the talent in the MIAA. And anymore, again, more people are working at it, which is great for our game. The more Keith Guttons we have in the world, the more people that are willing to invest in baseball players as people and work at them and make them better men and make them better players, I think the better it is for our game. And that's what it's growing into something that's that big. And you've seen it grow from the ground up.
Oh,
and
it's crazy.
I've been in the Midwest and now for 15 years, and the leaps and bounds that it's made over the course of that time has just been amazing.
Yeah, and it's crazy the amount of opportunities that are opened up after the game of baseball because it is a fraternity. Like, even though that I played at Missouri State or I played at junior college, and then when I hear someone say, oh, I went to Mizzou, or I went to SLU, or I went to UCM, I went to Missouri Western, well, then there's just a bond there because we know what we went through. We know that we woke up at 6 a.m. We know we went to the weight room, and we didn't like the sprints that coach was making us. It was just there's just that bond, and it opens up in the business world as well as outside of the baseball industry. It's crazy.
Well, I think it prepares you, and we speak to our players about this. I'm sure they're tired of it, but I think that those things that you go through that that other guys have gone through, when you take it outside of the baseball world, you're willing to do the things that are necessary to win or to succeed. And I think in the business world, whatever you decide to be doing, those qualities and those traits are necessary. And if you are able to do those things and willing to do those things because you know that you have to succeed in whatever you're doing, you're going to be okay. And that's what we're trying to teach here beyond the baseball side of it. But you know those sprints are necessary. You know the weight room's necessary. It stinks. You don't want to do it, but you know it's necessary and you do it. And you were a great baseball player because of it.
Yeah. Now, you guys are coming back not this weekend but the following weekend. What day does it start, the home series? So if someone wanted to come watch the game and see the games against Pitt State.
Friday at 2 p.m.
Friday at 2 p.m., okay.
Is when we're playing. And so we'll be out here for BP. I'm trying to figure out BP times now with turf. It's a little different. You don't have to fix the field.
Yeah, not to fix the field or anything. That's the best part. I bet you the players are so happy about that. No tarp duty. And
I messed around with them and told them we were going to keep the tarp anyway, just so we could stay to our roots and make sure that they didn't forget where they came from. But they are. I think the timing of this has been very good, and we've tried to give our guys an ability to step back and appreciate what they've been given because they really truly are lucky to be in this position. First of all, to be here at an institution that provides so much for them. But second, to be the ones that open up the turf and the stadium again, and they are excited. The day has changed a little bit, and it's life changing. You could on a regular baseball field, and every coach knows this. You could spend upwards of 4 hours preparing your field for a game.
Oh, I mean, if you have a game at 11, you have to get here like. It's 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Right, and you know this too, and that that's time either on scouting reports. That's time on preparing your players with early work or extra work if that's something that they're that you can do, or that's time with your family.
Yeah.
And those things are all I think important.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that a surface can create that feeling and that ability to have a little bit more time. That's life changing.
Yeah, I mean you only have so much time, right?
Right, exactly.
All right. So one question I like to ask is a book that you like to recommend for anyone on could be success. It could be just a really good read. Like you like fantasy or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
But I mean, what book would you recommend that you think would be good for someone to read?
Right now I'm into just like 3 or 4 different books. I really get, I like to involve myself and try to improve myself in leadership and baseball books and so on. But I think right now I'm right in the middle of something called What Drives Winning by Brett Ledbetter. And it's actually a very interesting study, and he's now part of a group. And he's written a book based on years of study. And I think he's from the Missouri area. He's a basketball player from the Missouri area, but he works very closely with the University of Florida. And it talks about there's a whole lot of success at that university, obviously. Baseball side, football side, soccer, blah, blah, blah. And he's gotten a lot of successful coaches even from outside there. And they've talked about character driving winning. And it's incredibly insightful, I think, and maybe a little outside the box. And so that's what I'm in the middle of now.
Gotcha.
It's I would say What Drives Winning is a great book to pick up and read.
A little fun question. What do you rock out to?
Oh.
Okay, so there was a problem with the video, and there's really no excuse except the interview was longer than expected because, as you can tell, Kyle was an unbelievable interview. Coach Crookes really was killing it with all of his answers, and it was very intriguing. And I know you guys were wondering, I know everyone was wondering what his answer was for the music question. It was five-finger death punch. And it ended up that we started talking even more about music and went way longer than expected. It was an unbelievable interview, I know. And that's, if it wasn't for this camera, we would have had the full interview, but it is what it is. I apologize. We have the show notes below that includes his schedule, Twitter information, Facebook information, anything that you can contact Coach Crookes. I have also listed below my email, and if you have any questions or comments, and I love seeing your comments, and it really is the oxygen of this show. So, yeah, I guess we'll end it with the scenes from UCM. See you, everyone. Cue it.